Good morning, everyone. We thank you for being here today. This is day 8 of the Hidden Pines Fire in Bastrop County. We want to announce this morning that we are at 80% containment on the fire, and so we've had some progress since this time yesterday. The acreage still remains at 4,582 acres burned in this fire, and as we announced last night at the town hall meeting, we've identified 64 home-like structures that have been lost in the fire. Today, we are very pleased to announce that the fire conditions are such that we are going to be able to allow a qualified resident reentry program today. In fact, beginning right now at 10:30, any resident in the fire footprint who wishes to reenter to take a look at their property and assess the situation are free to do that. You will need identification as you come to the checkpoint, but our officers have been instructed to be as accommodating as possible so that there will not be any stress on anyone who has already suffered plenty of stress. There will be some timing throughout the day on some other folks that will be allowed into the fire footprint, but at 10:30 it will only be displaced residents. Whether their home remains or whether it has been destroyed, they will be able to enter and have some time to take a look at the situation there. The sheriff will come with more details, but I will give you the rest of that schedule. At noon, we're going to allow the media to go in as long as they are accompanied by one of our sheriff's deputies. And for the media, we're going to ask you to honor this request. Do not talk to or interfere with the utility workers or with the firefighters, and do not enter private property without the property owner's permission. Those are the 3 ground rules on media. We will make enough sheriff's deputies available that I think all media crews should have access into the area beginning at noon. If you'd like to team up here about 11:30, our sheriff's department will coordinate with you about that. And then later on at 5 o'clock today, we're going to open it up for insurance agents and investigators who will be supporting the folks who have lost their homes, and many who didn't lose their homes, but there's going to be considerable smoke damage to be assessed. We want to get those folks in here at 5:30. We're saying all that to say that this is not the day to begin the cleanup process. We're going to ask that to be delayed at least until tomorrow, so that we're really focusing on people today. This is all about the people who have lost their homes and have suffered so much these last 8 days. We want to give them all the support we can and give them a time to re-enter and assess their situation. There will be pre-positioned in the fire footprint support from Texas Baptist Men. The Red Cross and Salvation Army will be there with a food truck and water, and Ministerial Alliance will be there to assist citizens who need some emotional and spiritual support, and we're thankful for that. So today, a summary would be we're only talking about authorized essential vehicles and personnel in addition to the displaced property owners. At this time, I would like for the sheriff to come and talk a little bit about the logistics and the security issues on this qualified reentry plan, and then I'll introduce Kate Johnson. Sheriff?
Thank you, Judge. As you stated, at 10:30 we will allow the residents the affected residents to return to their homes. In order to accomplish this and make sure that everybody's secure, we're going to implement the same process that we have before. People will be required to have some form of identification or proof that they live in the affected area. If for some reason you don't have that, I think Bluebont, I think we'll talk from Bluebont's perspective here in a minute, but I think that we'll be able to assist you in getting some sort of utility bill from them to show that you do in fact live in the area in order to gain access. At 12 o'clock, we will allow the media. I've counted on maybe 5. It looks like I got a lot more cameras than 5 here, but if we can kind of figure out who the major networks are or locals, and we'll try and get you all in there. Like the judge said, we want to limit your access to the firefighters, the media workers, and then obviously we need to stay off of private property unless you're invited. I really want to stress to everyone that in all practicality, this reentry should probably not be occurring until Thursday morning. There's still active fire in the area. There's still firefighters working in the area. There's public utility workers in the area. But understanding y'all's needs and desires to get back to your homes, we have diligently worked with fire operations and utility people and safety folks to ensure that it's at least safe for y'all to go home. And as the judge stated earlier today, and probably not even tomorrow, if we could hold off on things till after 5 o'clock tomorrow evening as far as any major cleanup or anything like that today, but definitely today's not the day to do that. We still got a lot of vehicles and a lot of activity in there, even though Bluebont's got their 40-foot pole trailers gone for the area. As you heard Mr. Rose talk about yesterday, there's over 1,300 trees they have to cut down and haul out of there, so there's still going to be a lot of vehicular traffic, a lot of heavy equipment. It's still pretty much a dangerous situation. We will maintain those security perimeters for an indefinite period of time. So if you have relatives or family members at some point you want to invite out to your house, you're going to have to come down and vouch for them and verify that they're allowed to come in there, and we'll make sure that happens. But we want to ensure your property is safe and secure, and at this point, and we just don't want to open it up and let everybody in there at this time. So anyway, if you have any issues, please feel free to call the sheriff's office. When you do return to your homes, there might be some smoldering trees or stumps, or there might be some fire that picks up later on. If that occurs, just pick up the phone and call 911. The sheriff's office 911 dispatchers will have direct communications with the firefighters in the field, and they'll get somebody over there to check it out for you. All right? I guess we'll open it up for questions here in a little while, but thank you all very much.
We'll wait for questions. Thank you, Sheriff. Great job for our Sheriff's Department. Unfortunately, they've done this before, and they know what they're doing. I will ask you again to honor the conditions that we've put on the reentry today. At this time, I want to bring Kate Johnston to the mic to let her talk a little bit about citizen services and support. You're going to learn some new acronyms today: Multi-Agency Resource Center, or otherwise the MARC, and the Volunteer Resource Center, the VRC. These are some facilities that Kate is going to be heading up. She'll tell you where they're located and what their hours of operation will be. But again, this is laying the organizational structure for supporting citizens going forward. So Kate Johnston, if you will come and talk to us about VRC.
Yes. Good morning. Okay, so the VRC and the MARC will be set up at 108 Main Street. And sorry. So anyhow, let's see, and they'll operations for both of those will be starting on Thursday. We'll be standing up those operations. They'll be running on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and on Sunday from 8 to 6 p.m. At that point, I'm going to make a determination if the MARC still needs to be there. So we're really encouraging all of our residents to come out and get and see what those resources are there that are available to them. And that time on Sunday, then I'll make, if we've gotten enough and we feel like we've touched enough homeowners, then we might stand down the MARC. The VRC, the Volunteer Reception Center, will stay open. We've got AmeriCorps coming in to man that. They did that at the beginning in the 2011 fires, so we have them back again. They know what they're doing. At that time, when things wind down, everything will transfer over to Bastrop County Long-Term Recovery. And we are encouraging all donations, volunteers, that kind of stuff. Know that everything will funnel through Bastrop County Long-Term Recovery when these other organizations phase out of this area. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. I should have announced earlier that our theme for today, I said yesterday it would be cautious optimism, but I want to change that to the theme of assessment. There are many people who are going to be going into their homes today and finding nothing left. And they've got to assess that situation and deal with it in their hearts and minds and find a way forward. And then there are many who are going to go into the fire footprint and find a home that is different than it was when they left. And they've got to assess those damages and what their needs are going to be going forward and when they're going to be able to get back in there. In addition to those assessments, we, the county, have got to start figuring out what is there as far as public right-of-ways. And I want to ask County Commissioner Clara Beckett to come now, talk a little bit about that and how we're going to be putting some numbers together on the damages that the county is going to be facing. Commissioner Beckett.
A couple of things. There's still some dumpsters for the folks down there at Cottletown and 71 and Gosher Trace and Cottletown or Antioch Road for spoiled food products. Please don't put any fire debris in these dumpsters. We want y'all to have a place nearby to get rid of the stuff in y'all's freezers and refrigerators and such. Try to double bag them real good, you know. We're gonna empty them every day. As the judge was talking about, we're sending in a team that helped us out in 2011. Y'all be real careful. There's a lot of trees in the rights of way and on private property that could fall into the roadways. We're going to try to get a count on those and come up with a game plan on how to deal with that going forward. The other thing I'd like to mention is, you know, the posted speed limits are for ideal conditions. These are not ideal conditions. So I would really ask you to be vigilant, go slow. I know you're going to be anxious to get in there and see what's going on. You know, 20 miles an hour, go slow. There are big trucks everywhere and lots of people, pedestrians, firefighters. Take it down to the school speed zone speeds. We don't want anybody getting hurt after all of this on the roadways. So the media, residents, everybody, you know, try to be real extra vigilant. We don't want anybody hurt, and be cognizant of these trees that are standing. We're going to try to get after it as quickly as possible and get an assessment on that done today. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. At last night's town hall meeting, the Commissioner announced about the additional residences that we know that were lost. And we're not posting that list just yet because she and I are trying to make every effort to contact those people individually. We don't want them to see on social media. We don't want that to be their first notice that their house has been lost in this fire. So we're working on that. There will be a time when I will make that an official county document, and then it will be released just as we did in the 2011 fire. And I just want to add a word to folks who are cleaning out refrigerators and freezers today. Double bag it, cinch those bags up as tightly as you can with tape, or tie them as tightly as you can, and place them in the dumpsters as gently as you can. We do not want those spoiled foods to ruin the atmosphere and make it even more unpleasant to do what has to be done. We've learned in the 2011 fire that that's going to be a big problem. Without electricity for 7 days, chances are it's going to be pretty horrible. So be ready for that and do what you can to ameliorate any problem. I want to just mention that Dr. Rock McNulty with Smithfield Independent School District is here. Anna Murray, his assistant, is here. They're being very sensitive to the school kids and the parents getting kids to school. They've announced some drop-off places over in Bastrop where school kids can be picked up and dropped off at night, and they're committed to continuing to provide transportation for the children and support for the parents so that the kids can stay in school and continue to learn and have as normal a life as possible. We thank you, Dr. Rock, for that. At this time, I want to ask Mark Morales with the Blue Team to come and talk to you a little bit about fire operations overnight and what he anticipates going throughout the day. Mr. Morales, as I've introduced before, is from Arkansas, so you'll have to listen closely and understand what he says. But other than that, Mark, come on up. I'm going to adopt him and just move him to Texas if I could. We love you, brother.
Thank you, Judge, and good morning to everyone. And I think, the first thing I'd like to start off with is what the sheriff said about ideally we would have probably waited a couple of days to let people in. But also 2 nights ago I made a commitment that we would do everything that we could to get residents in as quickly as we could do that, with the caveat that I had to provide for the safety of our firefighters and the public as well. And I feel that we've been able to do that and to meet both of those commitments. And I take both of those commitments, I feel those very personally, and I believe in them very strongly. And so I'm glad that the judge was able to make this announcement this morning. And I also want to tell the residents, thank you for your support when I had to tell you that we weren't going to allow you in for another night or two. But I still had folks coming up and giving support to the firefighters. And I told our firefighters today, you're just I'm the face that you get to see. I'm not the one that's doing the firefighting. The folks out there on the ground are the ones doing that, but I can promise you that I'm passing that support and the thanks on to those people every day, and they appreciate that, and I appreciate that outpouring of support as well. I want to go back to the fire operations. As the judge said, we are up to 80% containment. I think we'll probably stay about there for a couple of days, continue to assess. We're still working. The hazard is still out there, as I've been talking about for the last several days. And so I just want the residents to be aware that we're still out there working, but I also want you to be very careful as you're working around your homes and be very vigilant on that. I really want to go back now to the day that our team assumed command, and that's what we do. We assume command. We've requested in and asked to assume command. And when we did that, we've been in a unified command system and working with a couple other folks, and that has worked out extraordinarily well, and it's worked very well for our team, and I appreciate the support that I've got from there. But one of the things that I told y'all day one when we got here, the local resources, and that's the county and the city resources, the Texas A&M Forest Service, the night before we assumed command, there was a line around this fire. So they handed us something that was in very good shape. And so they made our job one of just maintaining what they had done and improving it. And so I think that's a very important note for everyone to have here. And I think the citizens both of Texas and the county should be very proud of the resources that they have here. And so if you get a chance, you see a volunteer firefighter or any firefighter, stop and tell them thanks, whether they were here on this fire or not. They do a lot for our community wherever we are. And with that, good news for the day.
Thank you, Mark. I just can't say enough about the Blue Team and how they have supported us here. With surgical precision, they have managed this fire operation for the last 5 days, and it's just been a great experience. And we thank you, Mark, and your team for that. At this time, I want to bring Will Halford with Bluebonnet Electric Company to say a few words about their continued operations. Power's on, but there are some things mopping up in the utility division as well. So, Will, if you'll come and talk about that.
Good morning. Thank you, Judge. My name is Will Holford, Willholford. I'm with Bluebonnet Electric Cooperative. As the judge said, we have power fully restored in the affected area. As of 4:15 p.m. yesterday, everybody was all the 441 meters that we de-energized during this event have been re-energized, so power has been fully restored. But our job's not over. We have we identified more than 1,700 trees that were burned or damaged and needed to come down. We've cleared 550 of those. 351 of those trees were immediate danger trees that had to have been cleared before we were able to restore power, and we've done that. So now we're working on what we call one-tag trees. As residents return to their homes in the area, they'll see a lot of trees out there, about 1,200 now, that are still left out there with one orange tag on it, and those trees will eventually need to come down, but not immediately. We have, over the next couple of weeks, we're going to have 15 to 20 right-of-way crews in this area. Each crew consists of 2 to 3 vehicles and some heavy equipment. That'll be between 75 and 90 men and women out there working to remove those trees and make this area safe. We've got some rain coming. It's forecast. That rain could loosen some of the soil and could bring some wind, and some trees might fall. If they do, and they fall into our right-of-way or they fall into the power lines, it's very important that we get that residents report that. If there's an outage, if a tree falls into a power line and it causes an outage, if it's an immediate danger, If that wire is live or if there's a fire, then those residents should call 911 immediately. That's call 911 immediately if there's a danger to that tree falling into a power line. No danger, call our outage number at 800-949-4414, and we'll respond to that as quickly as possible. We're going to have extra crews in this area in the event of an outage like that. We'll work that like any other outage we do. We get on them very quickly, and it's in everybody's best interest and ours, and certainly the safety of the residents and the firefighters that will still be out there to get that taken care of as soon as possible. So that number again is 800-949-4414, and that's our outage number. That's manned 20. It's an automated number. There will be a computer voice, but residents should leave their name, contact information, and the address, and that'll go immediately to our SCADA center, our control center, which is manned 24/7. Lastly, we have a gentleman named Tommy Higgins. That's TOMMYHIGGINS. He's worked for us for several years now. He's going to be leading the team for Bluebonnet for people who have lost their homes or had their property damaged and destroyed. He will be leading the team for Bluebonnet to get those folks back to where they need to be and get their lives restored. Tommy lost his home in the 2011 fire, so he knows exactly what these folks are dealing with, what they'll need, and what resources are available from Bluebonnet and also from the fine folks behind us in the community. He's going to be working, he and his team will be working out of our Bastrop Member Service Center. That's located on Highway 71, on the north side of Highway 71, between 304 and Highway 20. Our team will be reaching out to those members. We'll be proactively contacting those members to get them started. But if they have questions in between, before they get a phone call from Tommy or his team, they can reach him at 800-842-7708. That's our customer service number, and they just ask for Tommy Higgins, if Tommy's or any other member of his team, and that's Melissa Espinal and Becca Brotherton. Lastly, I want to touch on the reentry plan that Sheriff and the Judge have spoken to. If residents need to reenter the property, they need to show proof of residency, and they can get an electric bill from Bluebonnet Electric Cooperative, again at that member service center. They just need to go to that member service center and show proof of ID and one other piece of identifying information. That's typically a driver's license and the last 4 digits of their social security number. For some reason they don't have their driver's license, the last 4 digits of their social security number and an address, an email, or a phone number, some other identifier that's on their account that only they will know, and then we'll be able to print up a copy of their electric bill, and they can show that to the sheriff's deputies and gain access to their property. Thank you.
Thank you, Will. Bluebonnet has been a great partner in this disaster and in the process of recovery. Robert Tamil, City Manager of Bastrop, asked me to announce that we now have 451 residents who have registered at the Recreation Center, and that is a dual registration with the Bastrop County Long-Term Recovery Team. If there's anybody left out there who has not yet registered but has suffered loss in this disaster, please register as soon as possible so that we can begin to get resources focused your direction. We've talked about our media conferences, and I think we're to a point now that we can make a change in those. This will be our last 10:30 a.m. conference. We will have our 5 o'clock town hall meeting tonight at the Rec Center, but that will be the last of those. Going forward, beginning tomorrow at 3 p.m., we will have a stand-up news conference at the Volunteer Resources Center on Main Street in Smithfield. A couple of reasons for that. We want to give the Recreation Center back to the city of Smithfield so that they can get back to their normal programming there. And secondly, now that we're at 80% containment, the focus now begins to talk about recovery and helping the affected citizens, and that comes out of the MARC and the Volunteer Resource Center. So we will change our location to that at 3 o'clock in the afternoon beginning tomorrow. But we will see you at 5 o'clock tonight with the citizens at Town Hall. As we conclude today, I just want to say a little bit about this event. You know, we live in a world of trouble, and it's part of the human condition. Good things happen, bad things happen to good people all the time. Things that you didn't cause and had nothing to do with, but you live with it and you deal with it, and you work through it, and we survive. There's a story in the Bible about a fellow who knew something about trouble. His name was Job. And you may remember that Job was pressured to curse God and turn his back. And Job said, no, I can't do that. I can't just take the good and not the bad. And none of us can do that in life. We're asking our citizens, along with the good, the beauty of Bastrop County, the wonderful pine trees that we enjoy here, this great environment, sometimes we have bad come out of that. We have forest fires, we have floods. We must take the bad with the good. And our citizens are resilient, they're strong, they're citizens of faith, and I believe in them. And I know that we will come through this and we will be strong. So I just want to encourage citizens of Bastrop County today to be strong and trust, and everything will be fine. Thank you so much. We will take questions if we were not clear about anything or something we didn't cover. Yes, ma'am.
Morales, with the rain in the forecast, how does that play into y'all's fight? And also, are there any concerns when it comes to flooding because of the burn scar?
I'll repeat each question and then give it to whoever should answer. The question had to do with the rain in the forecast. How will it affect the fire operations? And what was the second part?
When it comes to the burn scar, are there any issues when it comes to possible flooding?
Issues in the burn scar with possible flooding. We'll talk about that. But Mark, talk about the fire ops.
Okay, from a fire standpoint, and it obviously has an effect on our operations, and it's good news from that regard. That will help us to cool things down. It'll help us to shrink the amount of resources that are needed. But again, I want to emphasize that with a little bit of rain does not mean that it's all going to go out. I've been on an incident where we received 12 inches of rain after a hurricane, and 2 days later we were back in taking care of things. So it will help us, obviously, and we're welcoming that rainfall. But as far as the flooding, Judge, you're going to address that?
I will, yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. I will address the flooding because we have some experience with that. After the 2011 fire in September, they had an 8-inch rain in January. And you're exactly right. The soils will be loose. They'll have no vegetation to protect them. And if we were to have flooding rains in the next few days or even in the next few months, we will lose some soil, and we may in fact lose some infrastructure because of it. So that's a very good reminder to all of our citizens. We're still in a disaster area here, and it's still an active disaster area. Somebody says, well, I don't see any smoke. Meet me out here about 7:30 in the morning. You'll see plenty of smoke. When the air inverts during the nighttime, there is a lot of smoke up and down Alum Creek Basin and in the footprint of the fire. And where there's smoke, there is fire. So this is still an active scene. So we're asking you to be careful about that. Even when you go back to your homes, don't go wandering off through the woods just to see what it looks like. You may end up in a hole up to your waist with fire on your feet. Just be careful and be cognizant of your environment. Be aware of what's above you and around you so that everybody is safe even during this qualified reentry process. Another question, Rudy.
After the 2011 fire, there was a little confusion in regards to property owners and the tree removal process. How are we going to handle that this time? Will there be help for individuals who have these large pines on their private property? Will the county help, or is it just up to them and you're all going to take care of the right of way?
Well, I would like to ask Commissioner Beckett to come and talk about that part of it, and because she certainly has some experience with that.
Well, the first thing we're going to take care of is those trees that we're directly responsible for, those that lie within the county right-of-way. We're going to get on that as soon as possible, and we have a team out there today assessing that. They're also looking at how many trees are on private property that pose a threat either to the public road or to the homes. That is an issue that we are working through and hope to get FEMA public assistance. You know, the FEMA individual assistance is to help the residents, and that's first and foremost with regard to housing. But the state has to meet certain thresholds in order to be eligible for FEMA public assistance, which would assist with those costs around trees that would fall onto home sites or ingress-egress, their driveways, and such as that. So we're pressing on FEMA and hope to get some public assistance with that.
I understand we will have skid steers and chainsaw crews in here.
That's a good point. And through the volunteer organizations, we hope to get a lot of that done as well.
Will, you want to add something about
Yeah,
that?
Rudy, thanks for that question. That's a good one. And I want to reiterate or make clear that the trees that we're talking about that Bluebonnet has gone in, our arborists have gone in and they have tagged, those are outside of our utility easement. They're outside of our right-of-way. Obviously, this area was affected in 2011, and since then, we've gone in and had a very aggressive right-of-way clearing program. I've done great work in there. So the trees that we're talking about, they are outside of Bluebonnet's utility easement. They are on private property. So if a resident goes back to their property and they see all those tagged trees on their private property, we did that. And the way we believe that those trees pose a not an immediate threat, because if they were, they'd been removed, but they are likely to die or become damaged enough that they can fall on our power lines. So if a resident gets to their property and they see a tree that's not tagged that they're concerned with, then they should give us a call at that 800-949-4414 number, and we'll have an arborist come out and look at it. Thank you.
Thank you. Jillian?
What's the estimated cost so far of the fire, and is there any timeline for when FEMA can give an answer either way?
The question has to do with the estimated cost of the fire so far and when can FEMA give us an assessment. Mr. Rose reported yesterday that Bluebonnet has so far spent about $2.7 million in their operations to restore power. We do not yet have a dollar value of damages to county assets and what it will cost us to remove the trees along the county right-of-way or that might threaten the county right-of-way. We will be assessing those as time goes by. There's no telling what the financial impact of a fire like this is going to be, with so many lost structures and so much damage to those that survived. It will be in the hundreds of millions. We just don't know how much it will be. We'll let you know as that firms up. Any other questions that we haven't covered? Yes, sir.
Did I hear claims adjusters allowed in at 5 o'clock today?
Yes, sir. That is correct. Insurance agents, claims adjusters, and investigators are going to be allowed in. You will need to be accompanied by the property owner that you're representing, and the sheriff will be, his deputies will be there to confirm that. Sheriff, you want them to meet at your checkpoint, or?
No, your claims adjusters, as long as they got proper identification and can give us a specific address of where they're going, will be allowed in.
Thank you, Sheriff. Good question. Anything else that we haven't covered? Well, it's a big story, and we appreciate y'all helping us get it out. We've been able to announce this morning a qualified reentry program for the entire fire footprint, and we just ask everyone to go slow and to be safe. It's a day of assessment. Thank you very much. God bless you. You're dismissed.
If I could get all the media to hang around and let's talk about some of the logistics on getting y'all in here.